When choosing a kayak paddle, there are a few considerations to be made. The first thing is the length of your paddle. The second thing would be the size of the blade and the feather between the two blades. I then look at the type of shaft, whether it's a straight shaft or, as in this case, a bent shaft, and I'd also consider the diameter of the shaft depending on my hand size. The final thing I'd be looking at is what the paddle is actually made from. Here we have some examples of some sea kayak paddles which are longer than the river paddles. And now we're going to have a closer look at the river paddles. Here we have 3 different lengths of paddles for river kayaking. This one is 191 centimetres, this one is 194 centimetres, and this one is 197 centimetres. So what does these different lengths mean? Well, with a shorter length paddle I can get a higher stroke rate in, and this can also be more suitable for a shorter paddler. For the longer length paddle there's a greater leverage, which means more power can be transferred through the blade, and generally taller paddlers and stronger paddlers would go for a longer river paddle. Blade size differs. This blade here is a smaller blade than the one here, and if I lay them over the top of each other you can clearly see that. Again, generally speaking, a smaller paddler or one with less muscles would go for a smaller blade, and a stronger paddler, somebody who likes a lot more power, would go for a bigger blade. Looking at the feather of the blade, if we observe this blade here, we'll see this is set at 0 degrees. So there's no difference between the blade here and the blade here. This is favoured by play boaters. If we look at this blade here, we'll see there is a difference between one end and the other, and that's about 45 degrees on this blade. If I turn this round, this is set for right-handed paddlers, so my right hand controls the blade. We've also got a blade here which is set for left-handed paddlers, and you'll see that this one, the left hand, controls the blade. There's one other advantage of having the offset to the blades, to the feather, and that is when you're paddling into the wind, the paddle will slice through the wind, providing less resistance. Unlike the zero feather blade, which will provide lots, believe me, it's lots of resistance to any headwind. There are 2 considerations when looking at the shaft. The first one would be the diameter of the shaft, and there are 2 sizes. There's regular size or standard size, and then there's small. And people generally with small hands will go for a smaller shaft. The other difference is whether your shaft is bent or straight. Here's a bent shaft here, you can see the bend just coming in here, and there's certain advantages to the bent shaft in that I create less of an angle here at my wrist, and that can provide less pressure around my wrist and lead to less strain and less injury. And a straight shaft, there would be more bend just here. There's other advantages too. It's quite a technical subject area, but your hand can either be in a neutral position on the shaft, or it can be in front of the blade or behind the blade. Here we have a straight shafted paddle, and it's worth noting that in the area where the hand grips the shaft, it is slightly shaped for comfort. It's worth noting that there are many gold medalists, Olympic gold medalists and world champions in the kayak world who use straight shafted paddles. The river kayak blades we have here are made from carbon. These are all carbon here, and these are made from carbon shafts and then composite blades. Other materials you might look at would be wood, aluminium or alloy, and plastic. So your budget will ultimately decide what blade you buy. Moving across to the sea kayak blades here, there's a few subtle differences. Obviously the length is a lot longer. There's a slightly different paddling style required on the sea. You get a bigger lever, you've got a bigger boat to manoeuvre, so you need a bigger lever in the blade. We have drip rings, keep your hands a bit warmer. A nice feature of these blades is the adjustable feather. And I can do that by pressing a button here and select the feather that I want to use. If I'm going downwind, 0 degrees, my blade can act like a sail. If I'm going into the wind, I select 60 degrees and then the blade will slice. As with our river kayaking blades, these are made up of similar materials. There's carbon shafts and composite blades, and you can also get wooden ones and ones with plastic blades as well. The final choice is down to you, and down to your budget, and down to your intended use.